What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Rona Report. Happy Friday. My name is Chijioke Elizabeth. I'm your host. We're so glad to have you today.
I'm Chi.
Rock.
I'm Marisa.
And this is the Rona Report. So today we have some interesting things that we're bringing to you. But before we get into that, we're going to do things a little bit different, kind of like what we did last week, where we started with highlights. So we've added a new segment to our recording, and it's going to be like newsreel. So each of us are going to go really quickly down the line and share something that we found interesting about about the pandemic or anything COVID related. So I'm gonna go first. So this week I was having a discussion with friends, and we were talking about this research paper that came out on how loneliness during the pandemic has been. A lot of people have been just assuming that loneliness has been affecting the older population or those that are elderly, but in actuality, loneliness has been affecting millennials and young people the most, especially during COVID. And so I just thought that was really interesting, right? Because the article went on to discuss, and while I was having the discussion with my friends, the difference between loneliness and social isolation, right? And so a lot of people have not been isolated but are still lonely, and vice versa. A lot of people have been lonely but are not socially isolated. I don't know if that's making sense, but like I'm just really interested to see like what loneliness is going to look like, or how people are going to define loneliness after post COVID. So like that's my highlight. I don't know if it's really nerdy, but I just wanted to share that.
That's cool. My highlight, I guess, would be it's interesting to watch Fox News. I kind of just peek in there sometimes to see what the other half of the country is watching, and it's a totally different reality. When they were talking, they like glossed over the tapes that came out about Trump knowing the full breadth of everything that's going on and focused on Joe Biden. So it's just really weird. It's really weird to see that's how people are getting information. That's how they're being, the information is being synthesized and packaged for them. And that is the reality that they are living. It's kind of scary, actually, because it's literally it's unattached to truth and fact. So that's a highlight for me.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like my highlight would probably be, actually I can attach it to even something that was brought up last week, which was just that Elizabeth, you brought up the fact that there are evictions that are happening in certain places. So I know that they're just like, there's not going to be an instance where they're at their peak. I think there's going to be different times where they're definitely like different people are hitting different, like those points where cases are going to court. But I know that New York itself is going to be announcing a slew of layoffs as a city in terms of not having the budget. I mean, I'll say that, but I don't really know if I believe in that. Like at this point, like you're not putting money towards the people, so you're not gonna invest in that employment, especially when it comes to like essential workers, which is a whole other thing of like, y'all truly ain't shit because y'all didn't cancel rent. Y'all made people start paying for buses, and y'all are also about to lay people off who have been working and are not working because they love work, are working because y'all created the system too, where if people don't have employment, they don't have healthcare and they don't have the consistent pay. And y'all literally gave people a stimulus check that was $1,200, which as of today, that means they're expecting for people who got that check to be living on about $6 a day. And that's possibly one check for a whole household. circling all the way back to the idea that the city's going to be letting people go, that includes police officers, which ideally means maybe just sheriffs too, and maybe just means as well less people being able to be evicted because they literally don't have the personnel to keep people out of their homes during the fucking pandemic. So not great, but hoping that that's a real silver lining, in the sense of not by choice, but still defunding.
Thank you.
So my highlight, I just got back from Las Vegas. I was job hunting out there last time you guys saw me, and it's different. Like, Las Vegas is a go. They have masks and gloves and all that super available for anybody that needs it, but it's pretty much empty. Like, jobs right now, MGM just laid off like 2,500,000 workers. Yeah, horrible. So you have to look at other places. So you have to look at the grocery stores because they're constantly hiring. You have to look at any place that is considered, I guess, what is essential. Strip clubs are opening back up. I guess that's some form of essential worker. They're starting to reopen bars. They're opening this other like amusement park. I was saying like an indoor amusement park. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of like my highlight is relearning how to job hunt in a pandemic.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Oh my God. You have to like unlearn everything you learned before and then relearn something new. So, and it's like me and literally hundreds of thousands of people who already live in Las Vegas looking for work.
Yeah.
And you still need work to move. You still need, because you can't rely on the government,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even though we fucking pay taxes, even though we freaking pay taxes and everything, we should be able to rely on them during a pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I mean, they're definitely more prepared to quell protesters than they are to actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To hijack, steal people, straight up steal. Mm-hmm.
Which is concerning in the sense that, again, like, who knows? I don't even know I don't know what like it looks like for police to get those kinds of tools, resources, and weaponry, but the idea that even if they didn't have it, they were able to get it so quickly, and then there are wildfires that are happening in California that they're unsure of how they're going to solve. And it's a concerning question of why are you so quick thinking or overly prepared in one sector of your supposed role, because that's what you think it is, than the one that we actually ask for and care about, which is stuff like housing, which is stuff like clean water, which is stuff like clean air. Like, I mean, especially when it's not.
You can see it.
Yeah, like clean air isn't. We're not asking you to make clean air. We're asking you to stop letting companies and corporations pollute our air and our water.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for everyone who shared quickly. So today I wanted us to talk about what she brought up, which was news that Trump knew since February about COVID and how severe COVID was. And instead of taking appropriate actions, he kind of like downplayed it. So I don't know what his thinking was behind it, but like it's come out that he did know. And if you remember from our first episode, actually why this show got created was because we felt like as a group of people, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, if this was any old person on the street and they were like, the president of the United States, like we would have mobilized in a way more effective and efficient way. But like, due to who we have as president, we kind of have been like, and this is me understating it, we've been let down. In actuality, we've been fucked. So I wanted us to like just talk about that like really quickly. Like, how have you guys been feeling about that news? Like, how you guys been feeling about it?
Well, for me, I think we all kind of knew he knew.
Right.
I think in the back of our minds, if we really thought about it, we knew that he had more, because you would, you know, watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever, and they had information about this virus. So if they have information, then the President of the United States, with all of his access, should have information as well. Right. So if the news is saying, well, we think, you know, there's this many cases and it's coming from China and it could be spreading droplets. So it's just, I think the most alarming part for me is that he was trying to impress that reporter, Bob Woodward. He was trying to sound really intelligent, but then he gives the American people this really sort of dumb,
right,
kind of just
right,
weird guy. Like, it's almost as if, and I won't even say the American people, because I think Donald Trump is always talking to his supporters. He knows that his supporters are idiots. So he talks to them like he's the king of the idiots. And then when he's surrounded by people that he knows are of more intelligence and pedigree, he talks differently to them. And as a politician, you were constantly code switching. But when you're talking about a pandemic where people are dying, and you can't you can't take off your politician hat and be an administrator, the protector of America,
right?
That's fucked up. You got to think, there's people who lost their loved ones to this shit. Like, imagine hearing that in February, the President of the United States knew that this was deadly, and he said it out his mouth, knew that, was going on TV saying, oh, it's just the flu, or it's a Democratic hoax, and your grandma died, or your mom, or your, like, yeah, we had to shoot the fair ones with. But that's what's alarming to me, you know. It's messed up.
It's so sad to hear that. It's so sad to hear that people have died. And like,
people
not only people have died, are dying, will die. Like, and it's not only that, I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to jump in, but it's not only that you downplayed it and you lied about the severity of it, you have continued to do so for 6 months after the fact. Like, you know what? You don't want to scare the American people. You wanted to show our strength as world leaders, whatever. Like, and this is me giving the U.S. government the benefit of the doubt. You wanted to show our strength. Okay, people start dying. People are losing their jobs. At what point will you then say, like, did you not even think to yourself, like, oh no, this shit is out of control, like, let's rally, like, okay, maybe
he doesn't care about
he didn't take the right approach to
it. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
He has no empathy.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
3 out of 4 deaths were unnecessary.
Joe Biden said it best. He said, well, if you didn't want to have a panic, why didn't you at least just quietly prepare? Quietly get the PPE for the nurses. Do stuff in the background that shows that you're engaged,
right? And
you know the severity of what's going on,
right?
He didn't do nothing. Brad just let everything hang. So for me, it's either that he willfully didn't care, or he didn't know what to do, or he wanted it to be bad. Maybe he wanted it to be bad so he can come in, swoop in, and kind of save the day or something. You know, all of the above are trash. And
we still have the rest of October to figure out if he's gonna do something magical to fix this shit up right before the election.
He wants the vaccine out. He's been putting pressure on the FDA and the CDC and all these corporations to get a vaccine.
Right.
But then we figure out one of the vaccine gives people swollen spinal cord.
Like, okay, like, it's okay to make sure it's done right, you know? Like,
It's sterilizing people.
I didn't even know that was a side effect of the vaccine. People are getting swollen spinal cords, or like.
Well, it's because you have so many different. It's because you have so many different agencies who are doing research on it, and so it's like right now, there's a testing going on with Moderna, but also AstraZeneca. And AstraZeneca is one of the ones that came up more recently with having concerning side effects.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that like with the human trials, like those are going to continue going on for at least another, so honestly though, my dad's participating in one in Houston, and specifically because he's like, if this is going to be given to Black people, and Black people are the ones that are most affected by COVID, a Black person needs to be in this testing, because they almost always only test white people. And then they don't know about the actual side effects on people who live different lives, or just are different in terms of it's like what you may be carrying with you. So it's like, and his test doesn't end until next year. So, and that's the human testing ending next year. So who knows what that means for what they may be doing.
I think they were talking about a vaccine plausibly being ready for the general public in the first half of next year. So maybe May or June.
But would y'all take it?
No.
I would take it.
There's definitely been a whole thing about the fact that even if we get a vaccine, there's going to be sort of danger because Americans will not take a vaccine.
We have no trust. We have no trust.
Zero trust. Zero.
So like, why would we take?
I won't take it.
Something that's entering your body, but like I didn't want us to get too sidetracked. I wanted all of us to kind of answer. Thank you for answering. Marisa, Rock, did you guys have any thoughts on him?
I think it's just the fact that we actually, in a certain weird way, gave him a pass in the beginning, because we're just like, oh, he's too stupid to understand. And to know that, and it wasn't that like, and that was true. Partly is he's an idiot, but to give this guy, Bob Woodworth, an interview, it had nothing to do with him informing the people, and everything to do with him wanting to have this glorious interview and to be written down. He gave that man 18 on the record interviews. Like, how much don't we know? And I know a lot of people are really pissed off at Bob Woodworth, and I understand that, but we cannot be more upset with him than we are at this administration and any enablers that he had. Like, I don't think that anybody is shocked or surprised. I know we use the word downplay because that's what that's what Trump used. So it's so much more than that. It's outright lie. Yeah, that's what we need to put. He lied. He didn't downplay anything. He knew what was going on.
Really, really quickly, do you think that he had a responsibility to save the American people?
Yes, that's why he's there.
I'm gonna say what
yes.
The job description literally is that.
Yes.
That's literally
there are no
the
American
job
people.
description.
You have no power as an American president because your power is supposed to come from the people. So legitimately, if you have no people, you have no power.
Right.
Like,
so that is your main. That's like damn your only job is to make sure that we are taking care
job.
of.
That's really his only job.
Yeah.
Is to protect the homeland.
So,
like, you could even do the least of your job. The least of it. Mm-hmm.
To be honest, the least of it would have been telling us, because that would have given us the ability and more time and context to situate our shit for ourselves and take care of us for ourselves.
Exactly.
Which people are doing now, but they're having to do it with a lag and with minimal preparation and a lot more and a lot less information about prevention, because that was all the information that we would have needed to be successful was withheld.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell our because now we're still putting ourselves at risks. Like,
yes,
he could have told people, "Hey, this is deadly.
This is deadly."
Sorry. Right.
I mean, just wear a mask like that. Right. And he was fighting that for months, knowing how deadly this was.
Like, this could have been an opportunity to increase the public health of the American citizens by being like normalizing, not saying, oh, just because of COVID. No, normalizing washing your hands whenever you enter a space, normalizing washing them for 20 seconds and drying. Like, all these little things that people are picking up now because of COVID. It's like, no. This is actually basic hygiene that we never were really basic.
Why
like
don't we know how to
acculturated
wash our
to, but
hands?
should always be a part of how we live through our lives going forward.
I did want to say, like, go ahead.
It's
Marissa.
weird that people don't know how to wash, that they did not know that you had to wash your hands for at least 30 seconds.
Which is wild to me, especially because I remember babysitting kids and always telling them, like, make bubbles. Like, it's not about just, like, putting soap in your hand. No, like, you need to be making bubbles and like, that's what goes down the drain. Like,
I think for me, too, like, the more that I think about, like, him, like, willfully, like, withholding vital information that would have saved life was, like, I keep coming back to, like, he was asking people to drink bleach. Maybe if we drank bleach, like, or like, just all of the nonsense, him not wanting to give New York
light to the body,
like him not wanting to give New York ventilators, him asking California like all the things, like just
Chijioke, you're off. You went on mute.
The list of withholding, not only withholding information, but like we were talking about this last week, but like standing in the way of people like being like, what do we do with that information? And like, and I guess this would be the last thing before we jump into like into Marissa's question, but like, what is like how do we even move forward now? Like, this is so much.
But is it really so much? I think that we all kind of knew that he was a damn liar, always had been a damn liar, and he knew that it was more serious than it actually was. We have to just keep pushing like we are. We can't rely on the Senate. They just block any sort of relief, because they literally just blocked something either yesterday or today, another relief package, because they don't feel like it's necessary. They've already paid off their billionaire friends.
The Democrats, let's clarify that. The Democrats blocked that bill because it was so small.
Oh no, I'm saying like the Senate blocked it, and I'm pissed about it. It's just terrible. Like, you know, they want to offer to people trying to make a living $200 a week. What are you doing? $200, that's nothing.
Right.
Like, how much that lets you know how much they don't even know. They don't cover any of their living costs, because they can't even imagine what the average person spends on a weekly basis.
Right. And then plus, if you are from, granted, people in not blue states, but like people in like rural states, they don't live, the cost of living is far less than it would be to like live in like California or New York. Are they still living off of $200 a month or like $200 a week? Like, no, I don't think that they are. So,
and
like,
there's also like, even whatever you're trying to give people is always going to be the bare minimum because of how y'all are. So just go ahead and assume that's too low.
Right. I think France or one of these, I think it was France. France is covering all of their like citizens until next June, like June 2021. Like, even though they've resumed work, the economy is back to normal. Like, people are out of
They don't want it to crash.
They're still like, we're going to pad you and take care of you until like this thing actually like subsides, right? And I'm like, that's how a government should work. Like, I'm just so discouraged and so like disappointed. Like, I mean, I already was like disappointed, but like the fact that this human being like lied about the severity of a deadly virus.
Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised, but like, and then for him to come out and say it, like, you should have just kept that shit to your grave.
Yeah.
That really is like a reconciliation council right there.
Yeah.
He tells them, but I think the messed up part for me, and what I'm surprised about, is that people continually support him. Yeah. And media, and like right-wing media still gives him coverage.
He doesn't get in trouble.
He doesn't. Well,
I mean, they keep giving him platform, so.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to be. They don't want to be like live in reality. Like, if it was another person that did this, if it was a Democrat that did all of this, they would be
impeached. Clinton got a blow job and was impeached.
Right.
Yeah.
Y'all, somebody literally said that
he killed no one.
That Barack might have been our first Black president, but Trump's the first person to do everything that every white conservative person was worried about a Black president doing. Trump did. Like, everything.
Yeah.
Like, a whole
I
ass
think it
mess
just,
trying to
I
make an
think
oligarchy.
it tells that like it just tells to like how fundamentally like racist the United States is, and how fucking like we talk about this all the time on the show, like how we are like.
I think it's more of that shift. I mean, like, I'm not denying that there's a bunch of racism in there, but it's like
No, but if
Democrat
Trump was
Party.
anyone but a white man, you couldn't even like if Trump was like a fuck if it was
But don't you think if this was even George Bush, there would be more pushback? Like I don't think that
Yeah,
any president
and
could go
that's the
through this.
difference.
Mm.
Is
So
that Trump has somehow gotten people to disregard what they would normally do in normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Because I believe there's
racism.
right.
I believe there's racism, but I don't think racism is at the core of why people are just dismissing his bullshit.
What do you think?
I think they're honestly just drunk on him.
Right.
And they're also, I think it came a point for them where I said what I said and I'm sticking to it.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's a pride thing. Like, at this point, how can you do a U-turn if you've dismissed the kids in cages, if you've dismissed like if you dismissed all of these things, you can't stop at 200,000 Americans dead. You got to keep going. You got.
Let's see how many more. Okay. All right. So, thank you guys for all like weighing in. Rock, did you want to say anything? I didn't want to like not give you.
I know. I feel like I definitely interjected where I felt good about it.
So let's move on to Marisa had an interesting question for us, so take it away.
So I just wanted your thoughts. So as of this filming, it is September 11th. This is 9/11. And right now we are basically almost at the point where we have reached 15 9/11s. We had Governor Cuomo talk about how Trump is basically trying to kill New York City. He knew about this virus, and it wasn't the China virus. This virus came over from Europe. It traveled. And by the time it got to the States, they had already let 3 million Europeans come in. And that's why New York was so overwhelmed. Yeah, they shut down transportation from China, but they didn't think the virus was going to move. They didn't think the virus was going to move or jump or just stay put. It came over from Europe. So I guess my thoughts were, what are your guys' thoughts about Governor Cuomo saying that he is trying to kill New York? I mean, like, New York's been through so much. And now he's Trump is now going to withhold funding to blue states. He wants to withhold after he straight up screwed everybody over, have over 30,000 New Yorkers dead on his watch, from a lie that he told, from action that he did not take. And now he wants to withhold government funding. We have wildfires in California burning out of control, and they want to withhold funding and a pandemic. So this has become so political, and it shouldn't be this way at all. These are people actually out here dying, and not only just dying, like suffering.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this current new political strategy, or whatever the hell you want to call it?
I think that we've gotten to a point, and I really want to frame this as, and this is what I think is at the root of a lot of our political disagreement in America. The Republicans know that there's a demographic shift happening. So they've started to wage an asymmetrical political war on the rest of the country. They know that they will not have the actual popularity to win national elections in probably the next 5 years. So they are cheating, they are scheming, they are suppressing. That's their whole thing. The Democrats aren't being quick enough in responding, and they also don't want to get down in the mud with them. But it's something crazy when you have the person who's supposed to be president of the entire United States who speaks about these individual states, liberal states, not recognizing that, okay, maybe those states have liberal governments, but there are still, even if you want to go on the basis of those are liberal states, there are still conservatives in those states. There's still, your supporters are in those states. So you're willing to endanger people for your own political benefit. That's a scary place to be in as a country, because usually in history, once you get to that place, that's the precursor to civil war and civil unrest, because we've separated ourselves into these political tribes that are no longer, people don't even want to live next to Republicans. People don't want to live next to Democrats. How do you have a country like that? It's not possible. And then you have, and I say this again, it's our Republicans that do this. Democrats do not wage political war like this. Republicans are stoking the fire of instability in this country. And I promise you, they will reap the consequences of this. Yeah. Because if we really get down to it, these red states aren't the most productive, economically strong states, with the exception of Texas. And Texas is purple.
Well, that's really purple, yeah.
So if you chop off New York, if you chop off California, if you chop off Illinois, if you chop off a lot of these states that they don't have much.
Right.
So what country can you have?
Right.
It's stupid. It's stupid and short-sighted.
Yeah. I think just to like 100% agree with everything that she said, which is like, Trump is making a human issue a Republican versus Democrat issue. Like, it's the fact that he called COVID a Democratic hoax, which we now know was a ploy. It was a political ploy to make himself look better or to separate himself from the you can't wrap your head around something that's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like infantile? Like, I don't like.
Heinous?
Like.
Disgusting?
It doesn't even make sense. Yeah. Like, and it's true. You are trying to kill New York City, but you're not only trying to kill New York City, you're trying to kill anyone who is not supporting you, which is absurd. Like,
I'll say that's like very authoritarian. Like people need to recognize the regime that is the what they call a presidency has always been an imperial regime, but now is taking the opportunity to fully flex its regime level ability because of the fact that this is not a war between Republicans and Democrats. Right. This is a conflict between the old white traditions of white supremacy battling against the passive, liberal, progressive form of whiteness that allows for Black people versus this other one that actually, I'm going to say, and I say allows because I don't think that there's anything about being a white liberal or white progressive that makes you any more believing in the humanity of Black people, but I think you're more permissive of it because, again, I think there's going to always be that block of like not recognizing that in order for me to no longer be oppressed as a Black person, you can no longer be white because whiteness in it itself cannot exist in a world where there's freedom. Like, go back to whatever culture existed beyond or before that because that's all a manifestation. But
I was she's snapping. That part, which is that I'm not even gonna follow up with Rock. Just go ahead, Rich. If you aren't for Trump, then you should die. essentially what it is. If you aren't for Trump, then just die. And like she said, like, and actually, what I wanted to what I was going to talk about is herd immunity, right? Because a few episodes, is that what? A few episodes ago we were talking about how kind of COVID has been like greatly benefiting like white people. For some reason they've become like immune to it, right? And the more that you study it, it's because like in these areas they are kind of just like still going out in each other's faces, and they're probably like practicing herd immunity, right? However, like I don't think that's gonna last. And I think like she said, like it's going to, this wickedness and this evilness and this lack of care and the nonchalant this disregard for anyone who,
Nonchalant.
yeah, the disregard for, oh that's okay, the blatant disregard for anyone who is being affected by this is going to come back and bite the entire United States in the ass, white, black, whatever. So that's the last thing that I wanted to say.
I think what's going to happen, and I'm looking at there are certain defining moments in history that sort of you can look at and decide the trajectory of a given nation or the world, right? So China has basically mostly recovered from this. The rest of the world has mostly learned how to live in this reality of COVID. And to a certain extent, I think Americans have learned to just live with this shit, right? But the way a country handles crisis determines the trajectory of a country, right? So back in the day when America was met with the crisis of Pearl Harbor, it galvanized the entire nation to go to war, win this war, and then control, to have global hegemony for the next 70 years, right? But the way we have handled this crisis, because of current leadership, has been to ignore it, to not consider the ramifications, the economic and social ramifications of it. And that is going to be a lesson that America will look back in when they look at China and how China is rising now, and they realize, damn, in 2020, we didn't do what we had to do. And now we're saddled with all of this. Consider that when you're addressing the COVID, we would have spent less money addressing this if we would have addressed it early on. So now we have to think about the $3 trillion, $4 trillion deficit that we have now because we were addressing it when things were really bad. When that
on top of
the money we already owe to ourselves and foreign people that hold our debt. So when that money comes due, what happens to America?
Right.
How do we cut that check? We can't cut the check.
Cut the check.
There's no way.
What are you gonna do? I've been saying this like behind the scenes that like I do feel as though there is going to be, if not already so, not a political shift, a world power shift. And I think I said this a few episodes ago, there is definitely a decline in the United States as a world leader. Look at the way that we've handled, like you said, Chi, like COVID. Something that is so, it's deadly and it's a big deal. However, it's something that could have been handled in such a better way, something that could have been prevented, or at least like, I do feel like it could have been prevented in February when we got news of it, right? And so like,
but what wouldn't you look at how we're handling everything,
right?
Everything in the past 4 years,
right?
Like I think it would be almost laughable to think that they would do the bare minimum here. And we've had this power shift that's already going on. Our allies no longer trust us. That huge tax break that they gave to the super wealthy, not going to kick in until Trump is out of office, or wasn't supposed to kick in until the next president came in. And if Joe Biden does get elected, taxes are going to be so high. And what are these idiots going to say? Oh, look at another Democratic president in the the taxes are high.
Yeah.
Yes, because your idiot
Raise-
fool ass president made them that high.
And
What is
people
wrong
will
with
say
y'all?
that. They are gonna say that. They're gonna be
Playing golf and doing all these sorts of extracurricular unnecessary activities. But it's not just breaking New York. This is going to break the country. If he gets elected again, we are going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
It's not
gonna
even
break
a,
the country. I believe
it's going to break us. It's too much. It's
it's
too
going
much.
to break the country because you're going to have individual states starting to act in their interest, right? And you saw what happened in the pandemic. You saw what happened. You saw the Northeast band together and do their own thing. You saw Southern states band together and do their own thing. You saw Midwestern states do their own thing. You saw the West Coast do their own thing.
Yeah.
That is the pretense to a civil war.
Yeah.
And now people are saying
When you
that
don't
for New
have
York,
federal leadership, so states just have to go it alone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they're telling New York, like, New York is really thinking about withholding their taxes. If the federal government is not going to give them any sort of aid, people are really debating on whether they should be paying taxes.
Right.
No, if you're not going to help us, then we'll help ourselves. And no, we won't be paying any taxes. We're going to help ourselves.
That's where you have the system break down. Because if New York decides, cool, we're not going to pay our taxes, we're not going to give taxes to the federal government.
States.
We're going to block that.
Right.
California does what they're going to do.
Right. California already could be its own nation. Like it's a third largest economy in the world. You don't want California not to be part of the United States. Like,
and that's the problem, is because conservatives act as if fucking Arkansas and Missouri and Kentucky are holding down America, and that is where innovation in America is born. If you don't stop playing yourself, because the Republicans have exercised an outsized proportion of power in this country for too long. And it's because they designed these systems where the minority can rule, essentially. Like the Electoral College is really only so white people can preserve their power through, rich white people can preserve their power through time. It's
obsolete.
Yeah, it's obsolete. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping a Democrat not to say I'm a raging Democrat, a Democrat comes into office and cleans up like Democrats have had to do for the last 30 odd years, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
If you really think about it.
Right.
Bill Clinton was cleaning up Bush and Reagan.
Right.
Barack Obama was cleaning up Bush.
That's it for our segment, but really fast, I do want to like hone in on that. The only reason why Trump even looks like, the only reason why employment was up when Trump first got in office, for anyone who's watching this, it would be because Obama was doing work when he was in office. The only reason why Bush Jr. looked competent was because Bill Clinton
he never did. He never did.
No. Not as far as like the economy, as far as the United States just being like okay.
He did in the beginning.
Bill Clinton was putting in fucking work. So let's not pretend like Democrats don't come in for 8 years and I'm like, the two-party system, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not saying Democrats are fucking Jesus, like, sorry, excuse my language. But did anyone else want to say anything before we end our segment?
Just the last thing. Sorry, I have like trains coming over, but I just want to remind people that like Trump has been taking a lot of Obama's accomplishments and trying to claim them as his own. We see that it's no longer a two-party. I mean, on the ticket, it is a two-party system, but in real life, it's not. It's become four parties. The Democratic Party has split into two. However, Democrats still hold a lot of the power. That's why we have Joe Biden and not Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And that's why they have gone the more extreme route, while Democrats want to stay on this sort of let's just appease everyone, let's keep things the way they are, it's fine sort of road. The right has gone the extreme route, and they are continuing to do that with who they are putting as in their Senate, who they're putting in the House who they are electing. They're electing conspiracy theorists and outright racists. Like they've gone so far off. That's why it's definitely the far right. So let's hope and pray, because everything in my spirit says it's going to be a repeat of Hillary Clinton in 2016, but I'm fighting it, and let's get out there and vote for Joe Biden.
Right. I was just gonna say, let's not only hope and pray, go vote. Let's not only hope and pray. A lot of people, let's pray. No,
You
go
said
out
get
and
out there
fucking
and
vote.
vote for Joe Biden.
Go out there and fucking vote, you guys. Like,
one thing I will say different than Hillary is that this year people are much more advocating for settling for a candidate and then dealing with the aftermath going forward. Like there is a whole campaign of settle for Biden, and
I'm gonna say this last. I'm just gonna say this because I don't like when people inject and say, "Well, Joe Biden is just as bad." I will talk to you all day about how messed up the Democratic Party is, but at the end of the day, there is a difference between somebody that doesn't get everything right and somebody that is willfully being malicious in office and actually corrupt. There is a big difference. And if we keep conflating, being hyperbolic and conflating it, then we're always going to lose because the Republicans bet on that. They bet on the fact that liberals are so a little picky with the shit. They're like, okay, y'all, we're going to run our 30% who are concentrated and devoted up the middle, and then you guys in your 25% that's concentrated and devoted is always going to lose because the other 30% of people are like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't like either people. So, yeah.
And this is a Rona Report. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to end there. We might come back and just have like a strictly political episode so that Marisa, Chi, and Rock to educate us all on what's popping. But yeah, my name is Elizabeth Chijioke. I'm your host. So glad to have you.
I'm Chi.
Rock.
And I'm Marisa.
And this is the Rona Report. Have a good weekend.